Welcome back to Interactive Notebooking. As you already have probably figured out, I'm Samantha. And in this video, we're going to talk about how to create your model notebook. It's important for your students to have something to follow along with you. So I have my handy dandy notebook with me to guide you through this next few assignments, and you may find yourself needing to pause, and that is okay, because that is why we designed this professional development this way. So the first thing that you should already have is in your interactive notebook, you should have your moon phases. And this was given as an example in one of the other videos to have your kids set up grouping methods. So this switches things up, if you will, for your classes when you want your kids discussing different questions. So that should be the first thing in your notebook. The next thing in your notebook should be your title page, and that was discussed in another part. The title page basically starts off the notebook and identifies your student. Then you might have an author's page where you have the student write about themselves, put a picture, things like that. But then you have your table of contents. The table of contents can be done in a lot of different methods. This is just one way. I've done it in a multitude of fashions, from the page number to doing 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, to doing 1 through 100. So just kind of depends on what fits best for you and your students. I've also done it by unit. I know many of these notebooks, they can tend to get really big and really difficult to organize in, each individual page. It can become kind of cumbersome. So what I started doing is I would do Unit 1 starts on page 1, Unit 2 starts on page 15. That also helps your kids that really want to keep up with you, and you want them all to keep up with you, but you know which ones I'm talking about. They get hung up on that page number. It helps that reduce the stress just a little bit, in that if you're on page 15 and they're on page 16, it's not the end of the world, and they just start their next unit. So those are just a couple of examples to help you organize your notebook. So there is no right or wrong way to do these, so keep that in mind. You're going to want to leave a couple extra clean pages, and the next thing that we're going to do is an assignment. So if you'll find, after you turn a couple pages, a left side, okay, and we're going to call this advantages and disadvantages of using a notebook. So on this page, you're going to create a T-chart, much like I did here, and basically list the advantages on one side of the T-chart, like I did here, and the disadvantages on the other side. And I'll show you an example of this. In your table of contents, you're going to want to write down the assignment that we're working on. In this case, we're calling it an ISN graphic organizer. Depending on how you want to number your pages, 1A, number 1, up to you. I'll let you make that decision. We want to have choice here. If you want to pause here and start your T-chart and come back, I can show you what that example will look like. So we're going to create a graphic organizer. Hopefully you've already done that, with the advantages and disadvantages of using the composition notebook. When it comes to composition notebooks, it really does depend on what you're looking for. If you're looking for portability, if you notice, these are very small. They're easy to put in notebooks. The outside tends to be a little more hardy. Those are advantages. You can stack them. You can put duct tape on the side and color code them for organization for storage in your room, which is another topic that you need to think about, is how are you going to handle the notebooks. Disadvantages, we deter them from tearing out pages. They can get bulky. They can be hard to find because they are small in nature. So some of the things that are listed on our page here, there's a couple different things of ideas. So if you want to pause here and kind of read over that page, you can. This is just another version of what you could have had on the left side. In this case, we combined spiral and composition as it pertains to pros and cons. So if you want to pause here and read over this, these are some other considerations that you might have when it comes to notebooks. I don't recommend a binder. I know many schools, campuses, they use binders because of AVID training. If you're not familiar with AVID, don't worry. We're not going to get into AVID training in this particular module or any of the modules for interactive notebooking, but really the best way to effectively use interactive notebooks is using a spiral or composition. Both are equally okay. Both are both acceptable. It just depends on what you want to do and how much you're wanting to get out of each particular type. So read over this at your leisure, and I'll let you come up to your own conclusions. And if you have questions, feel free to ask. Ask those in the chat room of what they're doing with their students. So just to reiterate, there's no right or wrong way to do these notebooks. You're going to post your thoughts, the advantages and disadvantages on any of the types of notebooks. So if you have experience with interactive notebooks, whether it's through a teacher internship, maybe you're a new teacher and you've seen these things, maybe you're a veteran teacher and you have some more input of how the binders really are better than a spiral. And it's open for discussion. So post your thoughts in the chat room, pause here, go do that, and come back and we'll continue with the activities. So here's some additional things on why compositions work well, just some additional ideas for you to think about as far as cost, how to store them, that the wires get tangled, and so on. When we set up the notebook, really it goes back to the brain research that we talked about in Behind the Brain. So the output, your student side, so I'm going to show you an example of what that might look like, and we will talk about it some more. But an example might be, let's say you want them to talk about vocabulary that they've learned and note some additional facts from outside resources. It's okay to put that on output. The output side is only for the student. That's the left side of the notebook. Why is it the left side of the notebook? Well, back in Behind the Brain, it talked about the right side of the brain controlling the left side of the body. So the right side of the brain is controlling the left side of your notebook. On the right side, we have your notes, class notes, teacher notes, anything that you give them that is factual. Sometimes you can put graphic organizers over here if you're going through it with them, but it's not of their output. This is one way that you can include notes in your notebook. I have also put pages in the long ways fashion and just folded them in. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do these, but this is just one way, and it's nice because it looks like a little file folder. It's kind of cool. So I'll go back to this in a little bit, but just so you kind of know what the expectation is for your notebook setup. This is some more example work. So I will let you pause on these as you feel that you need to. These are other discipline examples because it's important for us to think about what are the other subject areas doing and what does that look like. So for our first assignment, we're going to do some scientific vocabulary because in science we know our vocabulary is a big deal. We teach them a lot when it comes to new words over the course of our year. So I'm going to ask you to complete a concept map. Concept map is where you take words and you connect them together, much like the one that I'm showing here. The word selection for you on the next left-hand assignment is to use these 7 words and connect them in ways, write them randomly on a piece of paper in any way that you feel necessary. And you're going to create as many connections as you can between the words. Use lines to connect the words and also write about why you're connecting them in that way. So for example, if I wanted to use scientific inquiry and claims, through inquiry, I can create a claim. So I might write that on the line. I'm going to go back to our example here. So if you want to pause and create a concept map on a left-hand side, because this is student output, I'm asking you to create your own. And notice I'm not really giving you a whole lot of direction. That's because we're looking for you to use creative, critical thinking skills. So if you want to go ahead and pause here, I'll let you create your mind map and come back. Notes. So what does this look like in a class? Let's take a look. So this is what we've done so far. So before we get into the notes, I want you to go back and add these into your table of contents. And if you notice, I've got a couple things in here. The Layers of Earth foldable is in here, and so are notes, and some additional things that we'll do online. So foldables. Foldables can help kids understand notes and the things that you give them. So what I need you to do is go back to the teacher resource foldable that's in this module and print the foldable off that's provided for you. The foldable that we are creating looks something like this. So pause here and go print that off and cut out the pieces you will need for this piece of the presentation. So once you create your foldable, you can label it, you can add a title to the top of the page, make sure that you number it. On the other side, these are teacher provided notes. You might do it in that order. This may be a pre-assessment to see what they understand. This might be what you want to do to support their learning. You have to make the notebook work for you and your kids. So on this page, this is printable out of the resource folder. Go ahead and go print that, trim it, and put it in your notebook, much like I've done here, and highlight and underline the important information that you find in this section of the notes that I've given you. The video is going to stop here, and we'll pick back up with the next assignment. Thanks.